Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Senator Keith Kelly. Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our Father, we come to you today with thanks. We appreciate everything that you do for us and all the blessings you've given us, Father. We live in a great state and we live in a great country that people give their lives to come here to have what we take for granted every day. While we have our divisions and arguments among ourselves, let us always try to remember that we all are very blessed by you and we are blessed to have each other in this country. Father, we pray that you'd guide our thoughts, our actions, and our decisions, that they would all be in accordance with your will, and we would pray that we would all stand together at the end of the day, put the differences aside, and help each other to move this state forward. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Senator Kelly. Today the pledge will be led by Senate intern Carter Ashcraft. Carter interns for Senator Reed.
Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carter. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Sheldat. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 27 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate is ready to transact business.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we excuse the absent senators.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we dispense with the reading of the journal from the previous legislative day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we be allowed to take committee reports anytime during the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Now move on to introduction of bills. Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move that we allow introduction bills throughout the day.
All right, any objection? You object? All right. So we're on introduction of bills right now. So if you want to introduce bills right now, go ahead. You're not going to be able to do it throughout the day. All right, we'll go to committee report. Secretary, call the first committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 77 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 160 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 156 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays. From Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 439 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 213 receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
House Bill number 213, relating to the Volunteer Rescue Squad Tuition Reimbursement Act of 2018, to amend sections 22-1860, 22-1861, 22-1863, and 22-1864 Code of Alabama 1975 to decrease the required contracted for service time after graduation and licensing from 3 years to 2 years, to expand the program to include students who contract and provide service to ambulance services, to provide exclusions from reimbursement, and to increase the amount of operational expenses reimbursed to the Alabama Community College system, and to add section 22-1861.1 to the Code of Alabama 1975 to provide for the retroactive reimbursement of certain fees and expenses.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 110, appointing Willis Cook to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I move that we Senate confirm Willis Cook of State Board of Agriculture and Industries, and I suppose we need to call a long roll, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston.
Aye.
Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smithman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Willis Cook's confirmed to the State Board of Ag and Industries. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation Number 108, appointing Hezekiah Early Jr. to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Hezekiah Early to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using his previous role with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Hezekiah Early is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation Number 107, appointing Joseph Harris to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Joseph Harris to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using previous role with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Joseph Harris is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 112, appointing Dennis Mays to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Dennis Mays to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Dennis Mays is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 111, appointing Carnell McAlpine to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate confirm McAlpine to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using previous role with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Carnell McAlpine's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 106, appointing Stanley Sessions to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Stanley Sessions to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Stanley Sessions is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 109, appointing Frank Speak to the Alabama State Board of Agriculture and Industries, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Frankie Speak to the State Board of Agriculture and Industries, using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Frank Speaks confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 103, appointing Deborah Robinson to the Alabama Real Estate Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Deborah Robinson to the Alabama Real Estate Commission, using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Deborah Robinson's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 104, appointing Robert Sharp to the State Forestry Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Robert Sharp to the Alabama Forestry Commission, using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Robert Sharp's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 113, appointing William Aycock to the Alabama Manufactured Housing Commission Advisory Board, receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator Livingston.
I move that the Senate confirm William Aycock Jr. to the Manufactured Housing Authority Commission Advisory Board.
All right, would you like to use previous role?
Using previous role with no objection.
Any objection?
I think he does. I think Senator Smitherman. Pass it. Oh, I don't have it.
All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton.
Previous role, thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman,
35 ayes, 0
Chairman.
nays. William Aycock Jr. is confirmed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Smitherman.
Having voted on the prevailing side, I move to reconsider that one.
What is it?
Do I get a chance to
All right,
talk on
all those in
reconsideration?
favor?
Can I talk on reconsideration?
You can't talk on reconsideration right now. All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. So, so we're back on the William Aycock Jr. Confirmation.
All right, I'd like to be recognized.
You're recognized.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I think I have my confirmations information. It should be in that pad, that brown pad right there. Should be on the inside of it. So thank you very much. So I can be germane, I want to talk about Mr. Aycock. And so, yes. First, I want to say that the director of manufactured housing, the executive director, I've known him for some time. He is a fine person. In fact, when I was chairman of judiciary, he was the point person in AOC. And so we worked on numerous projects together. And he was a gem of a person to work with. I certainly support Mr. Aycock in terms of him being confirmed to the board. I want to make that clear to everybody in here. I haven't voted on the prevailing side, and I'm going to vote again on the prevailing side. But I just would like to take a moment to have a little conversation about him. One of the things about that particular agency is that we have a breakdown of percentages of representation in terms of diversity, thanks to the committee and thanks to the appointing authorities who work for the governor across the street. And I want to thank them very much. I also want to thank Ms. Riddle, our examiner, because every couple of years we have an examination of the makeup of the different boards to get an understanding of how well we've done in trying to make sure we have diversity. So I want to thank her for honoring that request from me as a senator very, very much. I noticed that in this particular board that they're sitting right at about 22% in terms of representation of diversity. But I also learned that they have pretty much the director and the members that they appoint, they have themselves have been able to help address this situation as we discuss diversity. So when I get a chance, I would like to, if he's listening, if he's upstairs or whatever, I'd like to have a conversation with the governor's appointment secretary, because I think that out of these appointments, and it looked like it's 9 members, I think they actually have a third of them themselves, which is 3. So I think that we need to at least get 1 or more African American owned and I hope that in their three that they select as we go forward, really the next one that they would work with us in that regard to make sure that the one that they sent over here would reflect another level of diversity. You can take it if you want to. I'll get it back. Another level of diversity. I realize that they receive nominations, a list, or they receive a list from other entities. But I think that the senator from Mobile, she had a great idea about how to make sure under those circumstances that we get the observation consideration of diversity. She talked about an amendment that we actually put on a few things that says that those different entities would, lack of a better word, be responsible for coordinating the appointments so that they themselves would know that if it does not have a meaningful level of diversity, that those entities could coordinate together to as it relates to maybe people who they had promised that may not be people that would enhance diversity, but they may have promised because of some expertise that they have, so that among them they could, whoever maybe had the ability to appoint someone out of a congressional district or at large, then could have the flexibility to be able to appoint them so that we could rise up to that level of diversity. So I just wanted to kind of mention that part to them if he's up there, if they're picking it up on the mic, because I think most of our conversations go through all these buildings, most of them, if they choose to listen to it. And I think we have a set up in our TVs now, like the one back there, that they actually can sit up there and look and see what we're doing and listen. So I would just make that request that as we move forward in the future appointments in that area, that we would definitely be sensitive enough to address that. I remember when we talked about the manufactured housing industry, and I really want to compliment them on. I've seen some homes that's been manufactured for manufactured housing. They are some very good-looking homes. I've seen them tied down. I've seen them where they had the blocks around them. They have them sitting on certain platforms and have them braced down, and those homes look good. I've seen people put garages on them. I think that is awesome. Like I said, they look well, and I know many people who actually live in them, and it gave them an opportunity to be able to get a home. With the high cost of housing now and the high cost of construction equipment, that people are looking for whatever opportunities can provide them to have a home. And the Alabama Manufactured Housing Authority, as I said earlier, they do a good job of trying to help meet that need in our state. Now, I think that we've had communities that have been developed, and those communities, as I said earlier, look very nice. I've seen them put all kind of, I mean, it just really looks nice. I mean, I've seen them be all sizes. Back in the old days, you would just only think about, at least I did, you would just think about a trailer and not a double wide. I can remember the day, I know I'm telling my age, But I can remember the day that I don't even remember seeing a double wide. But now you have them the size of houses completely. And I think that's nice. And they also have them really like, I want to say like modular homes, where you have sort of sections that are built, and then you're able to pull all those sections together, and you have a very, very, very nice home. So I once again, I want to commend them for what they do. Now, as I said earlier, I've had a chance to work with the director, and every time I've had any involvement with him, he has done an outstanding job. He's a pleasant person to work with, and in this case, I am proud to be a part of this nomination, Mr. Chairman. I do not know if let me look in here and see if they have any kind of, let me see in the resumes or anything. I'll read the letter that they received, and then let me see what else I got back here. Oh, I got a resume. Mr. Chairman don't play over there. He got everything we need. And I appreciate you in all possible as you do, trying to, where it's practical, to have the people there where we can talk to them, we can see them, and I want to thank you for that much as well. That was important to me yesterday when we were dealing with the junior college board.
Yes, sir.
And it's not that they hadn't been trying to do anything, but it gave me an opportunity to reiterate my commitment to the academic side. You know, of course, I believe in the vocational. That's not the point. And everybody's not going to go to college. You know, that's a fact. Some people who go don't want to go but 2 years. You know, but we want them to be certified when they come out. And I'm going to tell you just how much I believe in that, and what a quality of education that our junior colleges are giving. Once again, I guess you could say that this is just a reference point with me. But if you can remember the young man who was in here, my grandson, who was paging,
Yes, sir.
his mother in high school, she went to a Ramsey High School taking accelerated gifted classes. She graduated with a GPA of 4.04 on a 4-point scale. She scored a 28 on the ACT. She went to Tennessee State University either on she could have gone on an athletic scholarship. She was a 3-sport athlete.
Yes, sir.
She was a setter in volleyball. She was a basketball 3-point shooter, and she was on the golf team. So she was offered a basketball scholarship to Tennessee State University. She was offered a volleyball scholarship there, and she was offered a presidential scholarship for her academic abilities.
Sounds like she's talented as well as smart.
Now, the thing happened to her is that going to the 11th grade in a place called Slidell, Louisiana, in the AAU National Tournament, we were in the semifinals of the national tournament playing against the state of Kentucky. And she was shooting a 3-pointer. And the young lady who was going out there to try to check her stumbled from Kentucky and fell into her legs. Yes, and it took her patelis. That's the ligament that you bend your knees like this when you go straight down. It knocked it all the way around to the back of her leg. And so because of that, then she had to have operation, all that. And then she had to sit out her 11th grade year from basketball and from volleyball. She recuperated time to play golf. So her senior year, that junior year where she had to get up every morning at 5 o'clock and do that therapy, she had to do it in PE in the middle of the day, and she had to do it in the evenings, whether at practice at night. She did that for all that part, and and the reason I found out from her that she didn't take the athletic scholarships, because to her, she wanted to prove to herself that she could come back from this injury and be offered Division I scholarships, to come to be that athlete. She was offered 6 Division I scholarships in athletics. But and by the way, the team that she was on the senior year won the first area championship for Ramsey. And after that, it's been, we haven't looked back over the last 25 years. They was on the team that set the standard of athletics there for girls basketball. And from that point, we hadn't. So here it is. I kept wondering why the people giving her scholarship, they were giving her number on the jersey, on the tennis shoes, and everything. And when we went back for orientation, she told them that she did not want to accept the athletic scholarship. So she went on a academic scholarship. And I asked her why. She said to prove, I just wanted to prove that I could do it. But then she decided she didn't want to be there. So she stayed 1 year, and she came back to Birmingham, because that's in Nashville.
Yeah.
Therein lies come the junior college, what I was talking about. She was going, then she decided that she wanted to finish school the same time her class did, which was 4 years, her friends. So she opted to go to Lawson State Junior College. Because when she was growing up, we used to sit in the living room looking at TV, and I don't know how many people remember ER. When ER came on, she would tell me, she said, "Daddy, that's what I'm gonna do." So she went to Lawson Junior College, took nursing, first time took a state boards, passed, she's an RN, and she did what she said. She wanted to go to ER. She worked in ER, and now she's doing some of this. I put it like this. She's the kind of nurse that when the other nurses can't put the needle in your arm, you know how they try to find it? They go call her.
He's the one.
Yeah, she the one. She has all kind of certifications. So I had to compliment and say that when I said that junior colleges have really stepped up to the plate, you know, to prepare our students with skills and talents and things. So but having the opportunity to talk to them, I wanted to let them know not to slack off on what they had done on the academic side when a lot of their attention is on the vocational side. And of course, I think you know I got assured that wasn't going to happen.
I heard the chancellor's remarks. Yes, sir, I sure did. You have to be proud of what they've done, especially going through the pandemic, being able to generate the folks to come out and go to work in nursing, other things too that are needed, med tech, so.
They do a good job of it. They really, really do. And so I think that, you know, it's important. You know, I'm a kind of person, really, and I say this sincerely, I believe you should give people their flowers while they living. You know, I've been to enough funerals. They don't say anything about people. Yeah, they don't say nothing about people, and then they dead, and they say, you know, oh, Smellmore was a good guy. He did so-and-so. Well, tell me now. You know, I at least want to hear it. You ain't got to come up to me and tell me. You could be talking to somebody else. I want to, oh, he think I'm a pretty good guy. So that's why I try to do that with them. And if you heard me say that about the director, where Mr. Aycock is going, you know, he's a fine man. Fine person. They couldn't have gotten anybody better for that position. You know, and it seems like Mr. Aycock is the same kind of person.
Yep.
You know, I thought it in committee. That's why I voted for him. You know, my thoughts hadn't changed one bit now. You know, so I just want to let you know that, Mr. Chairman, that it had not changed one bit now whatsoever.
Thank you for that, Mr. Senator.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm not blowing smoke at you. You know, you do a good job. This ain't my. I like to say this since in seniority I'm the second oldest. I like to say this ain't my first rodeo. You know, so when I said it, I had a chance to see it. You know, and you really do a good job.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You really do. I mean that.
Committee work, so
And-
we got a lot of good help, so.
Well, there again, though, you got to know how to manage help. You know, it's like athletes. I can have all the good athletes in the world, but if I don't know how to get them to play together, share the ball, or do anything like that, then you've seen teams like that. They just scatter.
Got all the talent in the world, just can't play together, yes, sir.
That's you correct. You correct. Now let me ask you this. You heard me say something about balls, so I might just ask you this question. What high schools do you have?
Oh, let's see, I have Buckhorn High School in Madison County High School. I have Jackson County, there are Skyline, Woodville,
I've heard of them.
North Sand Mountain, Pisgah section,
I heard all of them.
and North Jackson, and then Scottsboro High School, and then in DeKalb County, Fort Payne High School, and Fife, who's been a pretty good, they've been pretty good playing a little football.
All of them you
and
say have some good
Plainview,
schools.
who's been real good playing basketball, and they're just
They beat us last year,
Yeah.
our boys.
Plainview boys. Yeah.
Plainview boy beat us last year.
Yeah.
Them boy can shoot threes from in the closet, from the parking lot, and everywhere else. They could play. I'm just telling you, you know. And remember we went to the state, so and we were ranked number 1 in 5A when we went to the state. This year,
Yeah.
we lost, but we were ranked number 1 in the whole state. So I'm telling you, we lost to them, and we were the number 1 5A team in the state. So I'm telling you, they good. I just want here to tell you.
They can play, yes, sir.
Oh yeah, and you know, pigs. What you say, pig? What start with the P?
Pisgah.
Pisgah is-
Plainview. And
Plainview, Pisgah, Scottsboro.
Scottsboro.
They had a good
They
team
had a good
this
team
year.
This last year, sure did.
Oh, they had a good team. And let me see, you named. I know you said North Jackson, but there was somebody else you named.
North Sand Mountain.
Yep, North Sand Mountain, 1A and the 1A or 2A.
I believe 2.
2A, yeah, they'll be reckoned with down there in 2A. So you know, y'all producing athletes up there.
They like to play, yes, sir. They do like to play.
I can see that. So in fact, I think we'll be close to the end of the session when I've got to start back coaching again. Because on the 3rd of June, we gonna be, who represents Troy? Who represents Troy? You represent Troy? Okay, yeah, we gonna be in his hometown on the 3rd. Come join us. Yeah, I am. We gonna be playing in your summer league tournament on that day. Basketball. They give us 1 month. They give us the month of June. See, football still dominate Alabama.
Starts early, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, the football coach made us do that. They just that strong in the state. They didn't want to get in their way when they started practice in July and August. So so we only have 1 official month. I mean, they can condition on their own, but that we can coach them is in the month of June. And so we have about 4 of these tournaments we go to around the state. And our first is going to be in his district, going to be on that Saturday. It's going to be in Troy. And so I told him, I said, why y'all didn't do it on a Thursday? I could just lead the legislature and ride on down to Troy.
Yeah, maybe we'll be out by then, right?
Yeah, I hope so. If not, maybe we'll be in that gap. You know how they wait 10 days or something? If the leadership feel we have to do that for some reason. And then we'll still be kind of out, but we'll be waiting to come back in from that day. But, you know, last couple of years, we didn't have to do that.
Hopefully that'll be the same way this year, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I think if they go across the street and they come to agreement with our executive leader, then I think, everything will go well. So we just got to send our leadership over there, to sit down with her and see if they can bring us to that point.
Wouldn't be surprised if there's not a path worn back and forth over there already.
I'm inclined to agree with you because we got to have a goal and a plan if we are doing the 3 days, to try to meet a certain point in time because of that. Because otherwise, we'll be here almost through the whole month of June. We're starting late.
19th, I believe, is the last, 105, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, and I like the fact that we just started in February in that first year now.
Yeah.
It was just for me, it was hard. Not everything, day-to-day stuff, but it was hard to line up, court and that, because you think you got a gap, and then you get ready to do that, then all of a sudden, we're dealing with budget hearings, and we're dealing with all that other stuff, and then all of a sudden, you kind of really don't get a chance to focus as close on something like that as you would like to do.
It's difficult to do your day job, yes, sir.
It is. Now I'm gonna say this, and you don't have to agree or disagree if you don't want to, because I won't put you on the spot, okay, when I say this. But see, we wouldn't have to worry about that if we hadn't went back and repealed this thing that we did relating to the price index. As things increase, our expenses was increased, our bill for expenses, because the cost now, I remember when you come down here and you get a hotel room with $75 with the state rate. Now the state rate, they only designate a few little rooms in each hotel for state rate, and that's $100 plus dollars.
Absolutely.
That's $25 more dollars. And when you cannot get these hotels that have state rate rooms, they want you to pay the regular rate.
And
whatever that might be.
it's kind of pricey, isn't it?
It's pricey.
Very pricey.
But that would have kept up with it. But, that's another conversation as to why that happened. I'm not trying to bash nobody about any situation or nothing, but I was just telling the consequence. You remember I've been talking about the airplane? I am not necessarily talking about the plane. I'm talking about the unintended consequences.
That's right.
They never intended when they did that for us to be where we are right now. I know they didn't, but I don't think they looked to the side of the plane.
Yeah.
They were just looking straight down.
Right down fuselage.
That's it. So, but no, getting back to this, I think that board will continue to do something good. I thought about trying to get me a small one of them and have it in like the woods by a lake or something, that I have somewhere to stay if I go fishing, hunting maybe, like squirrel hunting. The squirrels trying to get back in, I know you can't kill them now. I know the season, but where I live, even though it's in the city, I got a bunch of trees back there. You won't believe what I'm getting ready to tell you I saw back there. In my own backyard. Let me just name, this is city now. And I'll tell you how central I stay in the city, to where back in the day when we didn't have these pipes, way back in the day, before my day really, we had, these big old pipes that carry water, that we only had a ditch, big old ditch about from the Posada to down here, where water would run through. Even down in the rural part where we had manufactured housing,
Yep.
that the ditch would run through just like that. So now we have the pipes that go through there. But this is the consequences of those pipes. Not consequences, but let me say this. I've looked out my window in my backyard. And these are some of the creatures I have seen in the city. I'm gonna start with a nice one. I've seen 2 flamingos. Flamingos in my backyard walking around back there.
Flamingo.
In the city.
Okay.
I couldn't believe that 2 flamingos were back there. I also about squirrels. This Tuesday morning, I saw 2 squirrels walking around down there on the ground looking. All right. Early that morning, by the way, I got a neighbor behind me. He goes to work at 3 a.m. and I can hear his car cranking up. I can hear it. And so I woke up only to hear an owl back there saying, woo, woo, woo. Then about an hour and a half later, I heard a rooster, which was it was over to the next street. A rooster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I'm in the dead middle of the city now. I'm in the dead middle of the city. And then, on top of that Saturday, I saw a big eagle flying around. I mean, cause he plucked one of them little sparrows out of the sky. I'm talking the eagle, a big, humongous eagle. Remember my backyard now, I'm in the middle of the city. And I'm sitting there saying, and then, about 2 weeks before that, I came out my front door, and on the edge of my yard, I saw a possum. Okay? Now you think that's, and of course, you know, in the areas where I grew up, where we had manufactured housing, that you know, we had those situations. Now I'm gonna tell y'all something, and I'm gonna try to find it on this phone. Whenever I find it, I'm gonna show it to you, not because you wanna see it, but I'm gonna tell y'all what it was. I thought I had seen some big rats. And I'm talking about those sewer rats. You know, they about that big. And I saw 2 of them so old that the hair on their back was so thin, you could see the meat. Through the hair on them, they were just that old. But if you think that was something, for all you people, and where the senator from down, you know, I'm trying not to call nobody's name. The senator from down in by Baldwin down there, not that one, but your other counterpart. He's sitting over there. Yeah. When I tell him this, when I say this, he gonna be able to relate to it, and some of y'all too. I messed around. It was in my house. You know how you had your trash to take out? And you know, you get ready to take it out the next morning, and I forgot and left it by the thing, because you know, I get up early enough before they pick up on those days. And when I came back in there, the trash was gone. The whole bag was gone, y'all. And except for a little piece had been pulled under the cabinet, under the sink. A leg had gotten caught in that wood. And I'm gonna ask y'all something. How many people have seen a Dutch rat? Anybody seen a Dutch rat? A Dutch, they call it Dutch. I'm gonna find in my stroller pictures in here. The rat was so big that I had to, you know, I killed him myself. But he was so big, I feel compelled to call the folks who come out to it. I want you to hear this. Watch my hands, and I'm not exaggerating, y'all. The Dutch rat was that big. He was that big, and with his tail, he was about 3.5 or 4 feet long. Being that big around, looked like a big dog. A Dutch rat. I'd never seen anything like that. Like he said, came from down in that sewer that I was telling you about. I got the picture. I'm gonna find it on my phone because I took the picture. So when I tell you creatures that I've seen in my backyard and everywhere in the middle of the city.
That'd have made your cat run, wouldn't it?
And, oh, look here, the dog. You know, remember, I got a what you call them dogs? Wait a minute, I got a Yorkie. It was bigger than the Yorkie.
Guarantee that.
The rat was bigger than the Yorkie. Now if you know a Yorkie, they gonna try to fight anything. I had to drag him on back to the back. I said, this rat gonna eat you alive. You know, but that's some of the things I'm getting back on to be Jermaine. I know I have to kind of get back on the road. I was off the road a little bit. They building these manufactured houses now to where you don't have to worry about nothing like that coming in because they solid. They seal them tight. They put those rivets in them. You know what I'm talking about, them rivets.
Yeah.
They put those rivets in. See, a lot of folks don't know. I'm a country boy. I just happen to go city. But I grew up in the country. You know, I know about the rivets in them, and you got to, jack them up off the wheels, you know, and all that, and you got to secure them, tie them down. You got to have your blocks, and you got to have all that. Now, how much time is on this? 25 minutes, okay. And so, you know, one of the good things about a lot of them, they come fully furnished. And so there was somebody trying to get a good start off. They don't have to worry about buying a bunch of furniture. They don't have to do anything like that whatsoever. You know, whatsoever. So, and that's good. But you know, you got to take care of your stuff now. You know, you can't. You know how it is. I'm gonna talk a little Ebonic for just a second. You don't do it. Well, I'm gonna be light with it. You don't supposed to dog your furniture out. You know, kicking all on it, standing on top of the edge. Now that stuff ain't made for that kind of stuff. It's made for people that you go in, relax, and sit down and everything. I'm gonna tell you a little story about that. I had a friend of mine back in the day. When I came out of high school, I didn't go to college right then. See, I worked in a steel plant. We made train wheels. And this guy and I, we worked together, we were friends, and we worked a 2 to 10 shift. And so I would when my week to drive, I would go to his house. Now he used to get on, rub me because I would, you know, I'm a kind of guy. I remember I told y'all once before I've been an orderly. So I can make up a bed so tight that I can drop a quarter on it and it's gonna bounce about this high. Okay? So along with that, you know, I mean, I probably clean up a kitchen better than anybody you could hire. So, you know, if I get unemployed, I'm gonna come to your house and get a job, some of y'all. I want a good tip. You know, I want y'all to know that. But anyway, I would do that, and the guy he stayed in a manufactured home, by the way. Remember, I got to stay on that. He stayed in a manufactured home, and he would he would rub me, talking about, man, you must be henpecked because you got to wash dishes. And so my dad used to tell me, and I have to tell you a little something about him. At this time, my dad was Emily. He had a stroke, you know, and I'll tell you about that later on. Another story about that. But anyway, but it wasn't nothing wrong with his mind. So we'd be sitting down on the couch talking. I told him about this one day, and he said, "I tell you what I want you to do." He said, "I tell you what I want you to do." He said, I want you to. This is the way he would talk. I said, "Dad, you know so, and he laughed and he said, "Follow him home." That's what he just said. He said, "Follow him home." And I said, "What you mean?" He said, "You just follow him home. You get the answer to why you asking me about that." So I parked my car. There's a curb that you come to his house. I parked my car in the curb, and I got out. And I was coming to pick him up to work, but I left early, about 20 minutes early. And I went to his house and walked behind his house and looked in the kitchen. And guess what he was doing? Washing dishes. Trying to get all over me about it. He in there washing. So I ain't said nothing. I went around to the front of the manufactured housing. I knocked on the door. Then he Dutch rat? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, you see how big it is? That's it. See, hey, y'all, I want you to know, I'm trying to tell you, I'm telling the truth. He confirmed it. I got a picture on my phone of one like that. Them things big as dogs look like. And scary, man. But anyway, I knocked on the door, and he came to the door and didn't have a little apron on. I saw him with it on through the window. He didn't have it on, trying to sit up there like he wasn't doing that. So I realized at that point that you can't get faked out by your buddies. Because, hey, you know, if you're in a household and the two people working or whatever like that, everybody got to chip in and help out. And he had, and that matter of fact, the home he had, they had a nice dishwasher in there too. They had all these nice amenities in it. It was a great first start for people getting a home and wanting to afford it and everything. So as I said earlier, I'm real proud of them and real proud of that they have that board. I'm proud of what they do, and we got to do well we can to support them. I remember we had a bill or something. Maybe somebody can help me out on that. We had a bill or something that we did for manufacturing housing. It was probably about 3 years ago, and it was something they were trying to get us to do, and we all supported it. And I support them 100%. That's why you see, you can talk to the folks in the forestry. You know, we got a forestry bill on here,
Yes, sir.
I think.
Yeah, we
I
do.
support them 100%. You know, they'll tell you, I got a decent, very good record with them because the rural nature of me, I understand when y'all be talking about stuff, it relates to those rural areas. That's why if you look at my record, you didn't hear me say one time or take a position that I wouldn't support it. If you look, you'll see that, and that's because I can relate to it. I grew up like that. I just happen to be in the city now, but I grew up that same way.
You learned a lot of valuable traits growing up in a rural environment. And
That's right.
and how to handle things and how things are made and how they're put together and how to make them work.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes you learn how to make things work after they broke.
That's right. You know, you take, as I said about my father having been an invalid, you know, we stayed in rural Alabama. I'm the physical therapist that taught him how to walk with a walker. I'm the physical therapist that taught him how to write with his left hand when he had a stroke on his left hand, right side. I'm the one taught him how to eat with that. I taught him how to put his clothes on and everything else like that. You know, in rural Alabama, I couldn't get to Birmingham. Now I stay 5 minutes from all these people, the experts, the top of the line people. But there, it was nobody there. It was nobody whatsoever.
Had to rely on yourself.
That's right.
What you had there.
And when you talk about growing up, I know it surprised some folks in here.
That's
but when you
exactly.
talk about growing up, hey, I used to have to slop the hogs. We had hogs. You know, we had cows. We had cows. We had the milk. You know, with a chicken shed. You know, I had to pick the eggs. You know, all those things. We had about 4 or 5 dogs. I had to take care of them. You know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I appreciate all of that. You
Those
know,
are responsibilities that you learn, and as you're going up, and you want our kids to learn the same things. We're just having a challenge by a new environment that we're in the rural, not being in rural places, being in more public places, and with lots of things going on there. So, you know, as you talked a few minutes ago about the Alabama Manufactured Housing Association, they're great folks who do a fantastic job. But I want to put in a plug for our assistants down the hall because they do a fantastic job for all of us. They keep the wheels going on the track for us, and when things down here get a little befuddled, they help us out and get us back straightened out. So they do a fantastic job, and I want to thank you ladies for that. So do appreciate that. In the meantime, how much time do we have here? Okay. That could be an hour. So as the senators talk over there about, we got a comedian at the task here. as we move forward on this, I don't think we'll have any problem getting this passed here in a few minutes. You know, like I say, the group does a good job. They've put together an excellent product that they keep, and we want to make sure that we continue to push this board forward and understand the senator's concerns, and I think we'll be able to address those in the future. Don't you think, sir? Yeah. So, get on Mark. So this group is located here in your district, isn't that correct, Senator Barfoot?
I think so. And I apologize. I have been engaged in conversations about other things, and they were important, but this is also important, and I see this as on a Manufacturer Housing Commission, the advisory board. Is this something that came out of committee? When did this?
Came out of committee today, the Confirmations Committee today, and it was brought up on the floor this evening.
And I don't remember, at one point in time, I knew how many folks were on that advisory board. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think this is the only spot that's being filled, is it?
It is the only spot being filled on this board this time, and I think
Okay.
that's the senator's packet is there underneath your packet, and it may have the number of folks that are on that. All of them are different, so I'm sorry, I can't remember which is which, and
Yeah,
we also had a series of folks, you know, from the agriculture board today, too.
I don't have my glasses on, and plus I'm a little befuddled, kind of coming to this conversation a little bit late, but.
I appreciate you coming in and helping out here.
Yes, sir.
Even if you are a little befuddled, so.
Well, I'm working through it, though,
Yeah, well, let's appreciate that, so.
You know, I had the opportunity to be on the Confirmations Committee the last 4 years, really enjoyed that. Really had a great opportunity, and we got to saw a lot of confirmees come through and get to meet them and, you know, congratulate them on the job well done or the job anticipated that they were going to do.
Get to meet a lot of good folks. I agree with that. It's been, I've enjoyed doing this so far, and I hope that I have satisfied the body in what we've tried to do and bringing forward.
Well, I know Senator Chambliss last time, and you serving as chairman of that committee now, you know, do your due diligence to make sure that the folks come meet with you and that you give them accolades and you know, when needed, and ask tough questions. You know, that's a committee that last year a nominee would come before us, and you know, there were tough questions that need to be asked and had to be asked about those specific boards and maybe the makeup of those boards. I think Senator Smitherman had some questions from time to time, as I remember, about that. And it was certainly an opportunity to kind of get to know the folks a little bit better, look at their backgrounds and things along those lines. So,
And there are folks from all sorts of walks of life here doing this. So from CEOs in Birmingham and other places down to the farmers that are here with the ag board today. So
yeah, pay homage, a little retroactive homage maybe, but to the Manufactured Housing Commission. You know, they do a lot of great work over there, at least as I understand it, making sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and folks don't get you know, gone astray. Make sure that the manufactured housing community is following the regulations. Folks don't get befuddled with the rules and regulations that are there.
put together good products.
Yeah, I think so.
Make sure it's a solid product, yes.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna go out on a little bit of a limb here. At one point in time, I remembered, was it Walker County that had a pretty big manufactured housing component in Walker County?
I think they were probably one point in time, they were king, yes.
And I'm gonna go out on another little bit of a limb, I may be wrong, but at one point in time, I think President Carter's brother, Billy Carter, who you may remember had Billy Beer, I think there was a connection to the manufactured housing business in Walker County.
I think there was a connection at one point in time, but Billy may have drank some beer over there.
Somebody check me on that. I may be mistaken or befuddled on that, but somebody check Google Billy Carter and see if there was a connection to the manufactured housing.
He doesn't remember that. He's not old enough.
Yeah, past tense. That's right.
Right. I think you're correct, Senator.
I don't know, that just sticks in the back of my mind somewhere that maybe reading up on the presidents or family members, or maybe it was reading up on the manufactured housing business in Alabama and the economic impact it has, positive economic impact it has on.
Isn't it interesting what the brain retains sometimes?
It is. You know, sometimes I think I'm way off base and befuddled, and sometimes I actually get it right. So
Sometimes you are.
sometimes I am. That's exactly right. I wish I had my glasses. I was going to look up, see if I can still do this. The Alabama, yes, sir.
I'd loan you mine, but somebody'd say something about the color, so.
I'm at the beginning stages. I don't, that's good. That's
You hadn't reached the advanced stage yet.
That made things a little worse.
Let's
see.
hold it a little farther out, Senator.
Oh, yeah, that's right on time, right there. Alabama Manufactured Housing, the location is in South Decatur Street here in Montgomery, and that's actually, I think, Senate District 26.
26.
Senator Hatcher's district.
Okay.
And, but right on the line, good folks in Montgomery County. I'm looking at, they have the website here with rules and regulations and the administrative code, which includes resale of manufactured homes, regulations regarding those buildings, certifications of installation personnel, transportation of those manufactured homes or buildings, regulations for anchoring and blocking manufactured homes, licensing and
Senator,
training.
can you get committee members on that?
Let me look. If I keep looking, I guarantee you I'll find it.
think
Schedule
you'll
of
find it.
fees. They have a dispute resolution program. Let's take a look at that. It's a good thing to have a dispute resolution program.
You never know when you're gonna have a problem, have to
That's true.
work your way through it.
Process for resolving some of the disputes in here include other state or federal regulatory requirements may be resolved by the commission as follows, and it gives a list of those. I won't bore the body with that. I'm sure you can certainly look it up if you have some interest. But it goes on, talks about the appeals and all. Let me see about the existing subcommittee members.
Committee members or subcommittee members?
Yeah, let's look and see if if we can find both those. I'm sure it's on here somewhere.
I'm sure it is. Everything's on the web, it's just a matter of where it's put.
That's
where
exactly
you're
right.
looking.
So it looks like I do see Mr. Harris is the administrator and Mr. Pinker's the assistant administrator. My law partner's calling me, so I'll just switch him off.
That might not have been a good idea.
Nah, he owes me.
You're here and he's there. Are you sure about that?
Well, he's catching up with me, I'll put it to you that way. Looks like there's a whole host of information on the Manufactured Housing Commission online that includes, IBC, the International Building Codes, National Electrical Codes, Fuel Tax Code, Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, Fire Code, Residential Code, Energy Conservation Code, Americans with Disabilities, ADA standards, design and construction of storm shelters, which is something that I know we've discussed in this body for a while, storm shelters.
Yeah, as you go through that, so this is just not nilly-willy that they put these together. Obviously, there's a lot of restrictions that they go by, make sure they meet qualifications and make sure building requirements are there. Storm shelters, absolutely, It seems that we do have a tendency to be in tornado alley throughout Alabama, and we'll make sure our citizens are safe.
That's exactly right. And it looks to me, at least according to the regulatory code here, rules and regulations, they've got some fairly strict policies, procedures, rules, and regulations about, those codes and make sure that they adhere to the standards. And I know Mr. Aycock, I say Mr. Aycock's name?
Aycock, yes, sir.
I know he's, going to be hopefully confirmed here on that advisory board and will be, I'm sure, a part of some of those rules and regulations that get discussed and hopefully implemented. So, it also lists retailer responsibilities, which is, kind of cool. It looks like installation standards, notification, retailer notification of sales, site prep information and requirements. I mean, you don't think about that, but before you have a manufactured home out there, you need to have a well-leveled, maintained, and adequate place to put that.
And anchors in place.
That's exactly right.
So as we were talking earlier, then Senator, that this is a well thought out program. It's a good group of folks. They do what's right and make sure Alabama citizens are safe that buy manufactured housing, and that it has a set of codes and it's attached, built well. Senator Pryor was talking about using rivets, but it's something that's really put together strongly nowadays.
No question. And I think with that, just like with anything else, it's good to have a good set of rules, regulations, policies in place, but those mean nothing on a piece of paper unless you have inspectors and a way to enforce that, right? And so I'm looking on here, there's a whole list of inspectors, and it looks like, generally speaking, and I haven't counted, but that they're broken down by county or by regions of the state. Looks to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 at least inspectors according to the website. So they're busy and got a lot of work to do.
13 for 67 counties. That's not a terrible workload.
No, but you start doing the math, and what is that?
Doing a lot of traveling.
That's about 5 would be a little bit so. Let's see. Now, I'm just looking up if we can figure out the economic impact.
That would be a good number to know.
Yeah, and I bet we can find it on Alabama. Let's see here.
You're Binging or Googling there.
Let's see here. IBIS World says manufactured home dealers in Alabama current trends and industry outlook 2018 through 2028. This is going to be interesting facts.
10 years.
So, the manufactured home dealers industry in Alabama is expected to grow an annualized, it didn't say the percent, $312.5 million over 5 years this is from 2018 to 2023 during that projection.
$312 million.
That's a lot of economic impact, isn't it?
A lot of economic impact on Alabama, it sure is.
It looks like the industry establishments have increased to 141 locations. Let's see here. And this is actually an article in the business community that I think you probably have to subscribe to show, get all the details on there, but that was just kind of the headlines on that. Let's see. Now, the Alabama Department of Revenue does talk about, at least it looks like, manufactured homes on their website. Let's see what insight they can give us into what that commission does and how Mr. Aycock may be able to contribute to their mission. The Property Tax Division is responsible, let's see, for advising and assisting county tax officials. I'll kind of skip through some of this. All manufactured homes located on land owned by the manufactured homeowner where the manufactured homes are not rented or leased for business purposes shall be subject to assessment for ad valorem tax purposes, and the manufactured home shall be considered as improvements to the land. So I'm going to go back to law school, and I bet Senator Gavan would probably know the answer to this, but I used to think, is it real property or is it personal property? And if it's attached to the land, and you can nod yes or no, if it's attached to the land, anchored down, then it is real property. If it's, he's telling me I'm right. So we'll always go with that.
And Senator, I think if you buy one and move it and rent a lot somewhere, have it on somebody else's property, you have to have a stamp on it on the side where you pay something similar.
Used to be somewhere, and I don't remember exactly where, and this may just be a figment of my imagination, maybe befuddled on this, but it used to be that you had to have a skirt around it at some point to include it or count it as real property. I'm not sure that's true. It doesn't make much sense to me, but.
I don't know about the skirt. I know you'd like to have one up North Alabama to keep the weather out when it gets kind of like it did back at Christmas time this year.
When we're talking manufactured housing, that's also a lot of folks that I knew were involved in actual moving of those manufactured homes. And I think if I go back to the website that I was looking at before on the manufactured housing, I think it actually had, let's see here, some discussion in there about not only site prep, but some rules and regulations over transporting those. I may be wrong. I may have seen that on a different site.
They have to use escorts when they transport them.
Yeah.
All right. And all that.
Senator Barfoot, time's up. Not to befuddle you, but it's time to move on, so.
Yes, sir.
I think, Mr. President, I move for the Senate confirmation of William Aycock Jr. and the Manufactured Housing Commission Advisory Board using previous role.
All right.
No objection.
You want the long roll? All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Thirty-two ayes, 0 nays. William Aycock Jr. is confirmed.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was a befuddling conversation.
Thanks, Senator Livingston. Does that conclude? All right, that concludes confirmation. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 301 receives a favorable report with 3 amendments by a vote of 10 ayes and 1 nay. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 245 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 106 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 316 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 320 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 1 nay. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill number 131 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill number 287 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on State Government Affairs, House Bill 216 receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes and 0 nays. From State Government Affairs, House Bill number 110 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays. From State Governmental Affairs, House Bill number 11 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays. From State Government Affairs, Senate Bill number 294 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays. From State Government Affairs, Senate Bill number 313 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, House Bill number 421 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
What's the bill number?
From Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, House Bill number 248 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays. From Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, House Bill number 455 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays. From Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, House Bill 379 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Banking and Insurance, Senate Bill 330 receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
This bill has received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill 328 receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention.
Give me that number again.
From Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill 314 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, House Bill number 378 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill number 315 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Healthcare Committee, House Bill number 122 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 323 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 413 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 424 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 409 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 303 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 416 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 317 receives a favorable report. From Local Legislation, House Bill number 387 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 410 receives a favorable report.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From Local Legislation, Shelby County, House Bill number 444 receives a favorable report by a vote of 4 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Shelby County, House Bill number 448 receives a favorable report by a vote of 4 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Committee on Local Legislation, Jefferson County, Senate Bill 296 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays.
This bill has received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. This concludes committee reports. Now move on to motions and resolutions. Any members have any motions or resolutions?
Mr. President,
Senator Elliott.
I have a resolution.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the SJR, please.
Senate Joint Resolution number 77 by Senator Elliott, naming the Senator Tripp Pittman Interchange in Baldwin County.
Mr. President,
Senator Elliott.
I ask that the resolution be read at length.
Yes, Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Joint Resolution naming the Senator Tripp Pittman Interchange in Baldwin County. Whereas it is with highest commendation that we request that the Department of Transportation designate the interchange at State Road 181 and Interstate 10 in Baldwin County the Senator Tripp Pittman Interchange. Whereas Senator Pittman was elected in a special election in 2007 to serve Alabama Senate District 32, located in Baldwin County. He was reelected in 2010 and 2014. He chose not to seek reelection in 2018. Whereas born in Birmingham, Alabama, Senator Pittman and his wife Lynn live in Baldwin County, where they are members of the Fairhope United Methodist Church. Senator Pittman received a Bachelor of Science degree in Commerce and Business Administration from the University of Alabama. He is the owner of Pittman Tractor Company. Whereas during his years of service in the legislature, Senator Pittman served on numerous committees and in leadership roles and shepherded numerous state budgets through the legislative process. And whereas it is fitting to honor Senator Pittman by naming this interchange in Baldwin County in recognition of his service and leadership for the residents of Alabama. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that the Department of Transportation is encouraged to coordinate with local governing officials to consider designated the interchange at State Road 181 and Interstate 10 in Baldwin County the Senator Tripp Pittman Interchange, and to fabricate and erect appropriate signs or markers consistent with applicable requirements and laws in recognition of this designation.
All right, Senator Elliott.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask that all members be added.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Baldwin County delegation now, and I knew nothing about this. So I say go to rules
All right, Secretary.
on the bottom of the list.
All right, Secretary, send to rules. Thanks, Senator Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, any other motions or resolutions?
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have a Senate resolution.
All All right, Secretary, read and receive the Senate resolution.
What? Okay. Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have two resolutions from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution from rules.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 168 by Representative Gray commending Leanna Roberts. Also, House Joint Resolution Number 169 by Representative Keel congratulating Carmen Scott. Receive a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of these two resolutions from rules.
All right, any objection?
That was recommended who now? Mr. Emas? I'm sorry, I didn't hear who they were. I'm sorry, I just wanted to read the names again.
All right. Can I read the title?
House Joint Resolution Number 168 by Representative Gray commending Leanna Roberts. Also, House Joint Resolution Number 169 congratulating Carmen Scott by Representative Keel.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolutions
Mr. President,
adopted. Senator Wagner.
have another resolution from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution from rules, please.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 74 by Representative Starnes, supporting the 117th Air Refueling Wing Fund, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolutions adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have another resolution from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution from rules.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 127 by Representative Hall, urging the State Board of Health to increase the awareness of triple-negative breast cancer and to expand access to screening and treatment, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolutions adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have another resolution from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution from rules.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 144 by Representative Cole, honoring Memorial Day, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolutions adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have another resolution from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution from rules, please.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 145 by Representative Moore, expressing support for the continued function of the Wilson Lock, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
like that
Senator.
resolution read.
All right, Secretary, read the resolution, please.
House Joint Resolution Number 145, whereas the state of Alabama recognizes the immense impact Wilson Lock has on agriculture, industry, recreation, both interstate and intrastate commerce, the economic interest of the state and the state of Alabama as a whole. The Tennessee River serves the entire northern portion of the state as a vital artery connecting the state to not only the rest of the nation, but the entire world as part of the Mississippi River drainage. The Tennessee River is only made navigable by dams such as Wilson Lock and Dam. The many businesses and industries located along the river, including the cutting-edge aerospace companies that are located in this northern portion of the state, depend upon the Tennessee River for the transport of their goods. And whereas Wilson Lock is currently operating under a temporary guard wall solution, a permanent resolution is needed to restore the lock to normal operations to support the contributions the lock provides to the state. Without Wilson Lock being fully operational, the state stands to lose one of its most vital connections to the nation and to the world. The loss of such connection would cause potentially irreparable damage to the state. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that Wilson Lock is of national significance, and we lend our support in whatever fashion the state deems appropriate to help in this matter, and we fully stand behind the industries of this state that so heavily depend on this lock.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have the last resolution from rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the last resolution from rules.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 163, creating the Chronic Weight Management and Type 2 Diabetes Task Force. Receives a favorable report.
Mr. President,
Please,
Senator Singleton.
have it read, please.
All right, Secretary, read the resolution, please.
House Joint Resolution 163, whereas obesity and type 2 diabetes are significant health challenges in Alabama, which has the 7th highest adult obesity rate and the 12th highest childhood obesity rate in the nation. Alabama also has the 3rd highest prevalence of diabetes in the nation at 14%. The prevalence of diabetes has increased steadily since 1990, when only 6.1% of Alabamians had diabetes. Today, all but one of Alabama's 67 counties have a rate of diabetes prevalence above the national average of 10.5%. Whereas, according to the Alabama Department of Public Health, many people in Alabama have diabetes, but do not know that they have it. Diabetes may be treated with changes in diet and exercise if the condition is detected in its early stages. Diabetes takes an especially heavy toll on the Black American population and the elderly, and is especially prevalent in rural areas, which make up large portions of the state. Whereas obesity and type 2 diabetes have been identified as a significant risk factors for severe disease and mortality due to a variety of health issues, including COVID-19. Complications from obesity may lead to diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and many other comorbidities. Obesity is the leading risk factor for type 2 diabetes, which accounts for 90 to 95% of all diabetes cases. And whereas rural areas across the United States, including Alabama, have experienced deadly outbreaks of COVID-19, fueled in part by the high rates of obesity and diabetes found in these areas. Of the 6 Alabama counties designated as very high risk for COVID-19 mortality, 4 were rural. These counties have an average obesity rate of 31%. Whereas high rates of obesity and diabetes among various demographics in Alabama reflect significant health disparities that lead to increased vulnerability to COVID-19 and many other conditions, approximately 45% of Black Alabamians experience obesity and 17.3% have diabetes, the highest percentages of any racial or ethnic group in the state for either disease. Whereas addressing underlying conditions such as obesity and diabetes may improve outcomes for those facing COVID-19, a recently developed simulation model using data from peer-reviewed studies as well as real-time COVID-19 statistics demonstrated that if the national prevalence of obesity at the start of COVID-19 pandemic had been reduced by 25% from an overall rate of 40% to 30%, hospitalizations would have been reduced by 6.8%. Admissions to intensive care units would have been reduced by 10.7%, and mortality would have been reduced by 11.4% across all demographic groups. These effects would have been particularly pronounced among diverse populations, including Black Americans and Hispanic or Latino Americans, who are disproportionately impacted by obesity, diabetes, and COVID-19. Whereas for the reasons described above, it would be beneficial to understand and demonstrate the health implications of chronic weight management and type 2 diabetes, the cost associated with the diseases, and the various health treatments available to reduce this epidemic in Alabama, the cost savings of prevention and reduction in rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes, and to further promote the use of data to influence decision-making. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that there is created the Chronic Weight Management and Type 2 Diabetes Task Force to study the health implications of chronic weight management and type 2 diabetes. The task force shall be composed of the following members: 2 members of the House of Representatives appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, 1 member of the House of Representatives appointed by the House Minority Leader, 2 members of the Senate appointed by the President pro tempore of the Senate, 1 member of the Senate appointed by the Senate Minority Leader, 1 licensed certified endocrinologist appointed by the Medical Association of the State of Alabama, 1 obesity expert certified by the American Board of Obesity Medicine and appointed by the Board of Medical Examiners, the Chief Executive Officer of the State Employees Insurance Board, or his or her designee, the Chief Executive Officer of the Public Education Employees Health Insurance Board, or his or her designee, a representative of the business community representing a business employing at least 500 people in Alabama to be appointed by the chair of the House Health Committee, a representative of the business community representing a business with fewer than 50 employees or from a trade association whose members are primarily businesses with fewer than 50 employees to be appointed by the chair of the Senate Health Committee, a medical doctor practicing weight loss medicine appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the state health officer or his or her designee. The task force may add members as it sees fit by a majority vote of the task force members. All appointing authorities shall coordinate their appointments so that diversity, gender, race, and geographical areas is reflective of the makeup of this state. The task force shall have 2 co-chairs. One of the co-chairs shall be one of the members appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the other shall be the members appointed by the President pro tem of the Senate. The appointing authority shall indicate which manner shall serve as co-chair at the time of appointment. The first meeting of the task force shall be held at the unanimous call of the co-chairs and no later than December 30th, 2023. The task force may then meet as necessary to conduct its business. The task force shall have both of the following duties. 1, to study the health implications of chronic weight management and type 2 diabetes, the cost associated with the diseases, and the various health treatments available to reduce the epidemic in the state caused by those diseases. 2, to study how to promote the use of the data to influence decision-making to better understand the cost savings for prevention of obesity with chronic weight management and type 2 diabetes. Each legislative member of the task force shall be entitled to his or her regular legislative compensation per diem and travel expenses for each day of attendance at a meeting of the task force in accordance with Section 49 of the Constitution of Alabama 2022. Other members of the commission may be reimbursed for necessary expenses in attending meetings of the commission according to policies and procedures of their respective appointing authorities. Pursuant to Section 3614-17.1 Code of Alabama 1975, the Commission shall provide the Secretary of State a notice of all meetings, the name of each member serving on the Commission, and a copy of its findings and other documents produced throughout the duration of the Commission. No later than the 15th legislative day of the 2025 regular session of the legislature, the task force shall report its findings and recommendations to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President pro tem of the Senate, and the chairs of the appropriate legislative committees, at which time the task force shall be dissolved.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the resolution.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's adopted. All right, any other motions or resolutions? All right. All right, now move on to local bills. Secretary, call the first local bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 259 by Senator Jones relating to Cherokee County, BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Jones.
move adoption of the BR using the previous role.
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
I'd like to speak to the BR.
You recognized?
This is a local bill, and we're not here to try to kill anybody local bills. I think that whatever it is for Cherokee County, that you're going to do right for the folks of Cherokee County.
Thank you, sir.
But there are some things that we feel that are important to us on this side of the aisle also. You know, I look at budgets, and my little county, West Alabama, don't get nothing in neither one of them. The general fund and nor the education budgets. 0 projects. Y'all getting 30 million here, 100 million there, $200 million there, growing your communities. We get nothing. It's just unfair in how these budgets are balancing off in the state. And I'm almost think it's about to be another civil war, because it look like all the education money went to the north, and look like all of the general fund is gonna go to the south. So we're gonna meet up and have a little north-south war going on around here. And so don't think about the middle folk. Y'all, you know, so we just gonna have to look at this, and I think that we probably need to just kill both of the budgets and start all over again, personally, because I ain't got nothing in it, so I don't have anything to lose. So I ain't got nothing but time. Y'all might get tired of hearing Smitherman, so I'm gonna give you a new voice to hear. Till you get tired of hearing me. I know there's some bad stuff out there that people threaten to bring it. We're not gonna be bullied about it, so we're gonna be okay. And so I just think that Cherokee County is a beautiful county. I like the mountains up there and the hills in Cherokee County. I'm trying to keep it germane. And I don't know what the bill does. All I know is for Cherokee County. And that's your county.
Beautiful county.
And
God's country.
yes, indeed. I I think that, you know, you have some beautiful rolling hills that's in that area, and the climate up there is nice and cool, especially this time of year, springtime. It's beautiful. I hear the birds are chirping. And so we're just going to take our time. And I think that, you know, we're supposed to be a deliberative body, but we want to rush out of here on things. And we're supposed to be a deliberative body. Everybody get tired. Everybody want to go socialize and go to these receptions and tell folks we got done what they need to get done and go home with your packages, and the rest of us just act like there's nothing in the budget, or we can't even carry home anything for our people. So I understand that people getting tired, they getting restless. Okay, so what? It really doesn't matter with me. I've gotten to the point where I'm tired and restless too. We're just gonna be two tired and restless people, tired and restless. And we just gonna fight tired till we fall out. And so we're just gonna have these conversations, take our time with them. And we've been going through this session pretty smoothly. Haven't had anything, and people got all these bad bills that's been coming that's gonna make Alabama look bad, give sore eyes, but everybody doing it in the name of safety, and everybody doing it in the name of trying to make sure we got a safe community that only attack certain communities. You know, I'm glad that we were able to correct the so-called China bill today, you know, because it was a bad bill on the surface that looked like it was just attacking one ethnic group. You know, this man want to bring a resolution for a crook. I'm sorry. And tell him I said it. I'm a grown man. I repeat it to him. You know, I repeat it to him. And so, you know, this body, we hope that we do a lot of stuff bipartisan, that we will hope that we would do things that are fair. The gentleman from Jefferson came here and said that this was personal to him. The bill that he had was personal to him. We had a bill this morning where a senator stood up and said a bill was personal to him. We were ready to vote it out. We've had other members to come up here and talk about what was personal to them. People escaped that happened in their driveway. We ready to get it out for them because it was personal to them. Oh, I know this person. But time is up to us. What's personal to us, doesn't matter to y'all. We, as my old cousin named Tommy Hip Hill said, we folk like you too, cuz. We folk like you too. You know, we're human beings and we have feelings and we have people that we represent. I represent 150,000 plus people just like you do. It may take me 6 or 8 counties to get my 150,000. But I represent those people who have challenges and who want things for their communities also. So we get nothing. We get zero. And everybody go home smiling because they say that we don't need anything. Can't even get a little school to help growth and be able to cultivate young medical professions. All y'all voted against it. You just voted against it. But Cyber can have a school. Everybody else can have a school. So we just think the little poor children in the black belt ain't worthy of it. They ain't worthy of it. So we don't need it. We can't think. We don't know what we're doing. We might as well not exist. I think if some people could just cut off whatever part of the state they could, they'll carve it out the scissors and cut the black belt and throw us somewhere else. You know, well, you'll keep your land. You'll just get rid of the people problem. You'll keep your land because y'all want to protect your lands. You don't care nothing about the people over there. And so you won't throw away the people. And so, but we're not going to, you know, we have a voice too. And we're not going to idly stand by and just continue to allow you to do it. We'll use these rules to the best of our ability to maintain our integrity. We got a constituency base that we have to represent also. And so I'm here to join Senator Smitherman. You know, I'm tired of being sick and tired, as Fannie Lou said. Y'all know Fannie Lou Hamer? She said, I'm tired of being sick and tired. You know, so y'all get to come up here and talk about what's important to you, and everybody want to pass it. Just because, or something happened to your neighbor in your neighborhood, one person can dictate what laws is around this state from your side of the aisle. But poor folk can't get nothing because they don't deserve it, I guess. So I guess y'all don't represent poor folk. I guess all the poor folk must be just in the black belt, period, and that's it. No more poor folk outside the black belt. And you want to stack them all over there and don't care. We just asked for one little thing in the budget, a little school, and that was it. So then some of y'all who voted against me, your counties and cities didn't get nothing anyway. But you still were willing to vote against my little school. And then you didn't end up getting nothing. Like the capital city. Didn't get a thing, but they voted against me. They didn't get nothing in neither one of the budgets. Just didn't get a thing. That's just sad. The capital city didn't get a thing. But then they voted against me. I guess they said, well, if I ain't getting nothing, you don't get nothing. That's sad. So we're going to talk a little while. You know, I know all the powers that be is in the north. You know, and maybe I'm going to pack the black belt up and move north. Maybe that's what we need to be. You know, and maybe we just stop doing all this Florida 2.0 stuff, because everybody want to be Mr. Florida now, passing these bad bills that Florida wants to pass. You know, it is sad. You know, we were ready to pass this so-called China bill that was going to lose all of our professors in our colleges and universities, people who come to this state and bring a lot of contributions and a lot of knowledge. We already talk about we're short on people to go to work, workforce. We can't get people to go to work. We got a bill we want to take non-merit people and put them in merit people positions or put them to go to work for state agencies. We got a bill that's out there floating that want to do that. Forget the little poorly wage, low wage state workers who are out there. Instead of paying them, you would rather go out there and get some non-merit people and bring in. There's a bill out there floating like that. While I agree with you this morning on that bill, I had read that bill the way you read it.
All right, Senator Singleton, the time's expired on the BR.
Okay.
All right,
Review my
Senator Jones.
motion for passage of the BR, use a previous roll.
Roll. Can I get sustained?
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
$25 ayes, 0 nays, 3 abstentions. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 259 by Senator Jones relating to Cherokee County.
Mr. President.
Senator Jones.
I have a technical amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 259 by Senator Jones. Replace line 34 on page 2 with the following. Law enforcement purposes and for the prosecution of crimes in Cherokee County.
Mr. President, I'd like to speak to the amendment.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, can you tell me what this bill and how that amendment fits into this bill?
Sure. There's some funds in the bill that go to the district attorney. We share the circuit with DeKalb County, so it just clarifies that those funds stay within Cherokee County, which was the intent of the bill, but we want to make sure that that is the case since it's a shared circuit.
So you're going to take all the money?
Well, we're paying for it, so.
So you're not going to give DeKalb any of it?
No charity.
No charity? So if they're not paying their way, they don't get any?
They can do it themselves if they want, so. Same as what we're doing here.
Wow. And you represent both of them?
I do.
Are you going to do a bill for them?
Well, we're in talks about doing that, so there's, 4 members, on the delegation in DeKalb instead of 2. So if the other folks come on board, we'll be happy to carry that.
So this is your judicial district?
That's correct.
And how many counties do you have in your judicial district?
In that particular one's 2.
Just 2 counties, DeKalb and Cherokee?
That's correct.
What's the caseload in that district? Is it a heavy caseload?
I would say so because we're on the list in DeKalb County to get a new judge.
To get a circuit? Or
I believe it is a
district
circuit judge. I need to check on that.
Okay.
But one of the
a
other.
new judge?
A new judge, yeah.
Okay. So right now you probably got 1 circuit per county?
I know we've got
2 circuit judges that travel the circuit, they flip-flops?
We've got 3.
Oh, you got 3?
That are there between Cherokee and DeKalb. And then we have 1 that's Cherokee only. And so I guess this one would be.
But you're counting district judges also?
That's right.
Okay. But the circuit judges are the one that travel the circuit.
Around.
So you may have 2 that travels the circuit, flip-flop?
That's right.
Okay.
That sounds correct.
That's good. I mean, with 2, I guess, they could do 1 do criminal, 1 do a civil docket. Here, 1 do a criminal docket, 1 do a civil docket. Domestic docket, they can get it in that way. That's interesting because, and they need another judge because of the caseload?
That's right. They're high up on that list.
Based on the commission?
Based on the commission. So we want to take care of them.
So I'm sure you voted for that judge bill the other week.
I did. Nice when we can compromise and all come together and make something good happen for the people.
Were your county in that number?
DeKalb County was in that number, yes.
But DeKalb was?
Yes.
They got a judge. So they're more than likely going to be a district judge then, if it was specific for DeKalb.
Yes, that's right.
It wasn't for the circuit, so it had to be for DeKalb, it had to be a district judge.
That's correct.
Okay. So that means they'll give DeKalb 2 district judges.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, because every county usually have their own district. It's a circuit that will rotate from county to county on the circuit. They'll go to the circuit. But every county has its own district. So that means if you get another district, then you would need 2 districts. So the caseload must be popping up there to hold 2 district judges.
That's right.
That's interesting. Okay.
You ever been up our way to Cherokee and DeKalb County?
Oh yeah, well, I never spent any time in DeKalb, but I spent time in Cherokee. Just never in DeKalb that I can remember.
Great fishing up there, Weiss Lake.
Yeah, is it? Okay.
Love to have you come up sometime.
I'd love to come up.
Old joke is, they're crappie when they're biting, they're crappy when they're not.
I got you. Now that's a good one. I like that. And I love to eat crappie because can't catch the crappie because it won't catch, right? That's good. That's some good fishing there, man. Y'all got some good water streams coming out the mountains up there.
That's right.
Cool water
Cool water,
coming out the mountain.
good sized fish in there.
Yep.
A lot of people go where they, stick your hand up in the hole and catch the catfish.
Oh, they do. Oh, they do that up there.
Forgot the term for that, but somebody will tell me. Noodling, that's right.
Yeah, noodling. Yeah. Yeah, we do noodling down on. We catfish country. Yeah, I got catfish ponds all over my area, and the market is going down because of the infiltration of other fish that's coming in from foreign areas. Then we caught some diseases at Aramona, and it started killing a lot of the fish. Agriculture and all could never come up with that control of that, on those ponds. Because they were ponds, you got to keep those aerators going to make sure that they're breathing. And I don't know whether or not farmers was trying to overstock it to get more product to get to the market, which could have cost a lot of that. I don't know. When I talked to farmers in the area trying to come up with a solution, those were some of the things that they said, because all farmers weren't getting it. Even some farmers were like next door. It was all about the management and how they're managing their ponds and how they're aerating and treating the pond, whether or not there was getting no disease in the fish, to be able to carry it to market. For those who felt like they had a different marketing scheme, they never stopped going to market. So I guess when you get greedy and you want to overstock, because they're already fighting for air because they're in a pond. It's not like in a stream to where you got currents that are running on a regular basis so where they can get the air. You have to have the aerators in there to be able to get the bubbles in so that the fish could breathe. And so I know this family of mine that lives down the street from me, black family, and he owns a big catfish pond. He has about 8 kids, right? And we used to always laugh, but the kids would come to school in the morning, that they all had to go swimming like 12 midnight to get some bubbles in that in that water. So that would make them go out there and swim. If the aerators went out or something, they had to get up in the middle of the night and go swimming.
Wow.
Yeah, just to be able to save fish.
It's a lot of work.
So they get out there and play, all night long, before they come to school. I said, y'all be jumping in that cold water. Dad, okay, we can't lose that fish. The industry and the technology started catching up, and they still use a lot of propellers. A lot of those guys are building their own, coming up with different techniques and technology on how to keep the aerators going. There's a lot of tractors are being bought that sit there all night and spin. A lot of diesel fuel being used in that area because that tractor has to run all night to keep the propeller, the PTO to continue to move, so to keep that propeller to going. So we get that, but you got a lot of natural streams up there to where you don't have to worry about that because it's a free-flowing stream and fish can be able to breathe, and because the currents are always flowing through. And that's a beautiful thing, man.
It is.
It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful area. We'll get you up sometime and see what we got going on.
Maybe we can catch a few fish and go to your winery, and then we drink a little wine, eat a little fish. I'm one of those guys. I'm an outdoorsman. I love to be outdoors. I don't mind going to the river, the lake, taking my fish, my fries, and I'll cook them right there on the bank.
It's a great way to do it.
It's a great way to do it. Just camp out on the bank, and sit up a camp, fish, catch it, go back, eat, go back to fish some more, get up the next morning, have some fish and grits, boom. In the lunchtime, have some more fish, and dinner, have some more fish. You bake it, grill it, broil it, however you got to do it. But it's a fun thing to do. It really and truly is. So I think that this Cherokee County bill, these folks are gonna be proud of you for bringing this bill. I'm gonna be proud of you. It's a great bill.
I'm proud of you. I appreciate that.
You see, my pro tem told me he was proud of me. I think it's a great bill. So we're gonna move on through this, and And I have no intentions of talking no hour on your amendment. I'm going to go and let you adopt your amendment now, and then I might come back and talk on the bill before the final passage, okay?
Mind if I use the previous roll?
Well, no, I think I want to call roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll move for adoption of the amendment using the long roll.
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
You don't have to raise.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton.
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Hey, Robert.
27 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention. The Senator Jones amendment's adopted. Senator Jones.
Mr. President, I know that my colleague probably going to want to talk, but I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt using the previous roll, final passage.
All right, any objection?
And Mr. President,
Yes.
he was exactly right.
All right.
I would like to speak to it.
Well, you're recognized.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get back to that fishing. Now, tell me about this bill that you have before us and how it's going to help your circuit.
Well, we can, I'll be happy to talk about that. I'd much rather talk about fishing. It's much more interesting.
I know it is. We'll get back to fishing. I got to stay germane a little bit.
Not that I'm.
I got to stay a little germane.
Yeah, we'll keep you germane. Not that I'm any by any stretch of fisherman.
Little germane.
Oh, me. This bill, basically helping, we passed constitutional carry up here and law enforcement back home. They need some funding because they haven't been made whole. So they came to me with this, and then also our DA said, hey, we need some help too locally. So they put this together. It's on car tags, a small fee, but adds up to be a big help to them and making them whole from the legislation we passed year. I guess that was last year or 2 years ago. What is it, 2021, I think?
Constitutional carry.
That's right.
And those are those unintended consequences we knew was going to happen. So when you take the revenue from them, you got to replace it with something. So now you ended up taxing the citizens who may not even carry a gun, that got to now pay for those who carry their gun. Because we want people to have that freely to access to Second Amendment, to be unencumbered from being able to carry their weapon. Which is crazy to me, and so I would love to go back and look and see how many people actually went back, because I thought that the numbers on this bill would be that counties really weren't going to lose anything, because all of those people who really care, those law-abiding citizens, they're going to want their permit and they're going to go back and get their permit anyway. That's not happening in your county, is it?
Well,
not to a record number that you get. It can't be because you got to pass a bill to help them out.
That's right. Well, I think there was a fundamental flaw with the revenue replacement in that it should have been based on the prior year to passage. Because once we passed the bill, before it got enacted, folks were like, hey, I might as well just wait because I don't need to, this thing's going to become law. I don't need to get a permit. I'm just going to hold off. So we should have, I think, based it on the prior year's revenues before the bill was passed, because it started to dwindle when folks got wind that it was going to go through. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, well, even your 2 cents is perfectly rational. At the end of the day, it's still what we, the lawmakers, overlooked. Okay? Because we were rushing to judgment to do something that we thought that the public wanted to happen. When there probably wasn't nothing but a small group of folk. When you look at it, it's just that little gun right group that y'all have to be driven by, that get in your ear and tell you ain't gonna elect it if you do something, you don't do this. And so y'all were driven by that, and so now you having to feel it. So now, this is what the people really need to be voting y'all out for, having to come back and put a new tax on them. Because that's all this is, a new tax on them to be able to help somebody else be able to carry their gun. I would be advocating that, but I don't live in Cherokee County.
Just to be clear, Senator, we're not putting anything, I'm giving the commission the authority to do what they need to do. So we'll give them a little bit of authority.
But but you get stirred up in that pot with them, you know what I'm saying? Because they will say, but for you, it wouldn't be here. Okay? So therefore, because you could have easily said, no, I don't want to do it because we passed the bill. The state put in a pot, $5 million to try to help these counties. That's all we did. Then we came back and did another $5 million or something to help counties, 67 counties. It wasn't going to make up what these counties were doing and how they were doing their business on pistol permits. Some of these sheriffs were able to utilize that money to help buy new radios, to buy new weapons. They were able to buy other equipment with that pistol permit money. Some of them were pocketing it. They were putting raises and giving deputies and things. They were able to do a lot of different stuff with that money. Even cars, have that money to help the county be able to buy a car or two. Depends on how much they were bringing in. But it was a steady stream. It was a stream of revenue that was coming in. Now, you got to come back, pass this bill, and what are the taxes in it? The tags?
Tags.
Just tags?
Tag fee, that's right.
So now you're going to raise the tax fee up. If a person buys a brand new car after this is passed, what's the percentage on that tag fees in this bill?
Well, it's not a percentage, Senator. It is
flat rate.
$3.75.
$3.75. That's $3.75 more cents that they gonna have to pay. And you look at the number of tags that are bought in Cherokee County. Then you multiply that by $3.75, and Sheriff, hopefully that it will make up the revenue that he was getting off of the permits. And hopefully that some of those quote-unquote law-abiding citizens who carry a gun, who may want to travel outside of the state somewhere, will come and buy a permit. Therefore, you get that little revenue. But I bet you if you look at your county, I bet it's probably less than 10% of those folks who have gone back on the road. Probably is. And when we were led down that rabbit hole, the states that have done this, they haven't lost any revenue, that they will gain revenue. And we've seen states do better when we do constitutional carry and take away the permit. It makes no sense to me. It was almost like the prison commissioner coming to us and telling us that they were going to pay for the prison based on how they feed the prisoners, the money they save. What we have seen since we've been here, the costs go escalate up. And even at that time, he was still asking us for millions of dollars to get to where he needed to go before we passed the bill. So it made no sense to me that they tried to sell us that bill of goods, that they were going to build new prisons and pay for them based off cost savings. I mean, you got to be a heck of a money manager to take a prison system, something that, you know, you were hoping that, well, we get a new prisons in, we won't have to pay no maintenance for a while, so it's save money here. That wasn't gonna work, man. It wasn't gonna work. Because just to take prisons and move them in the middle of the night costs us millions of dollars to do that, to move them from one facility to another. You got to shut down the interstate, because we had an incident here in the state of Alabama that happened down south, to where they had to move inmates from down Atmore up to Montgomery in the middle of the night. They shut down the whole I-65 both ways. You had to utilize every police officer in between here to line up all the way down there, so you would make sure that you didn't have no hanky-panky anybody come to try to do a breakout for prisoners. But you had to pay all those folks. You had to give folks that you had to move them and transport them back and forth and move all those folks at one time and get them into those other facilities, and it cost us a couple of $1 million to do that. And we talking about we want to do something based on cost savings? Well, I just didn't see it. And so it's just like this pistol permit. We were told by the author of that bill, my good delegation member, who came and sold us a bill of sale, and y'all jumped on it because it sounded right, getting ready to go into a political year, that we can run on it, and we can run on this. We save your guns. We go out with the boogeyman theory all the time. We always want to scare folks to believing that the problem is way worse. It's just like the ballot harvesting bill. There ain't no problem in this state with ballot harvesting. That's just a DeSantis bill down there in Florida that somebody want to copycat, and a Secretary of State want to get his new shiny armor off because he's the brand new Secretary of State. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to keep it from happening. You know, I mean, it's crazy. We're not thinking about what we're doing to our state and the handcuffs that we're putting on ourselves, the ability or the inability for us to grow our state. That's why we put together this Innovation Commission, to be able to rebrand who we are and start to looking at things differently, not trying to be like other southern states, but set our own tone and be who we are. But yet it's still, we're operating on the Florida 2.0 right now. We Florida number 2, because we want to do everything Florida does. And we're going to kill our business, just like this bill, the so-called China bill. What's going to kill business in this state? What if Hyundai started pulling out because you talk about my Asian brothers? You know, what if Toyota had started pulling out of the state? You know, what if BMW, they said, well, if you come out the Asian tomorrow, maybe Germans the next day. You know, what if those companies just started pulling out from us? Honda hit the road. Look what the economy would look like in this state then. We'll be P.O.po. You know, we already can't operate to the level unless we operate our federal dollars. We've done some budgeting. It made us look good, like we've saved a lot of money, like we've done some great things on the budgeting. And then, but we got propped up by $58 billion that came from the federal government. All that money gonna be gone in a minute, then it's gonna be back to us. See, when I look across the aisle, I see y'all as fiscal conservatives when we broke. When we ain't got no money, y'all fiscal conservative. But when we got a lot of money, y'all just as liberals and a Democrat. Boy, y'all spent a lot of money fast. You spent a lot of money fast. We ain't talking about no saving account and spending money over here, save it over there, do this here. You know, ain't no fiscal conservatives over there no more. You only fiscally conservatives when we broke. But when we got money, you just a liberal, you spend money like I do. You spend it fast. And we was over here saying, don't do that. Don't do that. And you did it anyway. That's why portions of the states got left out, because of what was going on. Because we were spending it so fast. You know, So, Mr. Jones, I've talked enough on your bill. I think I've used about 40 minutes. So I'm going to let you and your local bill go on. I'm not trying to kill your local bill, sir.
Very kind of you,
That's not
sir.
that. Oh, I'm not just being kind. It's intentional. I'm intentional about what I'm doing because if I really wanted that, I would have been still talking that hour on that amendment.
Oh, believe me, I understand. That's
y'all
why I'm
want
thanking you.
previous roll or long roll?
No, we don't want the long roll still.
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
$27 ayes, 0 nays. You say one abstention? One abstention? One abstention. Senate Bill 259 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 295, proposed constitutional amendment by Senator Chastain relating to Geneva County.
Mr. President, move the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
All right, 28 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 295 by Senator Chastain, a proposed constitutional amendment relating to Geneva County.
Mr. President, I move the final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 295 passes.
Mr. President, I move certification using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. Certification resolutions adopted. Secretary, call next local bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 167 by Representative Rimm relating to Houston County. BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 167 by Representative Rimm relating to Houston County.
Mr. President, I move final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 167 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 268 by Representative Lovern relating to Lee County. BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, House Bill number 268 by Representative Lovern relating to Lee County.
Senator Chambliss.
Mr. President, I move final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays, House Bill 268 passes. Secretary, call next local bill.
On page 46 of the calendar, House Bill number 340 by Representative Moore relating to Morgan County. BR pending.
Mr. President, I move BR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 46 of the calendar, House Bill number 340 by Representative Moore relating to Morgan County.
Mr. President, I move final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays, House Bill 340 passes. This concludes local bills. Senator Reed. Senator Elliott, do you need a point of personal privilege?
I do, Mr.
You're
President.
recognized.
Thank you, sir. Members, a lot of times when we're here in Montgomery, we miss things back at home. I know, Mr. President, you've got small kids and you miss things as well. And so I missed Awards Day today for the 8th grade at Orange Beach Middle School. And I thought, since I wasn't there, I'd just take just a quick moment to say how proud I am of my daughter. She received the Mako Grit Award, and that award is given to the student who has met challenges head-on, whether physical or academic or personal. And the student demonstrating the Mako Grit does not give up. They have a spirit of being the best they can be, regardless of circumstances. And I thought I might just take a minute to say, I'm sorry I wasn't there, but I'm awfully proud of you, sweetheart.
All right, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me remind the membership, I'm about to make a motion and we're going to be leaving for the day. Let me remind you, we have a joint session with the House at 11 o'clock in the morning in the House chamber that is Medal of Honor winners that are law enforcement related. So we want to be cognizant of that and be in attendance at 11 o'clock. With that, Mr. President, let me make a motion that we're going to leave the journal open for House First that we have up here, and we're going to convene in the morning at 11:30 a.m.
Okay, heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.